All right, let's get right into it. If you're a homeowner in New Jersey, you know that siding replacement can feel like a huge project. Today, we're going to break it all down and turn that big, complicated thing into a super clear plan.
So let me ask you something. When was the last time you really took a close look at your home's siding? I mean, it's easy to overlook, right? But it's your home's first line of defense against literally everything the New Jersey climate throws at it. The hot, humid summers, and then those freezing, snowy winters.
Okay, so how do you know it's time? Well, if you're seeing any of this stuff, visible cracks, warping, maybe some fading, it's a pretty big red flag. And those things aren't just about looks. Cracks and holes can be signs of much bigger problems brewing underneath. And hey, if your energy bills are creeping up, yeah, your siding could totally be the culprit there. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to talk about why your siding is so dang important in the first place. Then we'll get into the different materials you can choose from, the awesome benefits of getting a new exterior, what the whole replacement process actually looks like, and of course, the big one, what's it all going to cost? Let's do it. First things first, let's really hammer home why siding matters so much. This isn't just about making your house look pretty, although that's a nice bonus. We are talking about the fundamental shield that protects your entire home, especially in a state like Jersey with its wild weather swings.
And this really says it all, doesn't it? Siding is your home's first line of defense. Think about that. It's like armor for your house. When that armor starts to weaken, everything else is at risk, from annoying drafts to serious leaks and even damage to the structure of your home itself. Okay, so now that we know why it's so important, let's talk about the what. When you decide to replace your siding, you've got a few main choices. For most homeowners in New Jersey, it really boils down to three core options. I love this little chart because it lays everything out so clearly. It's a quick at-a-glance look at the big trade-offs, right? You can immediately see how cost, durability, and how much work you'll have to put in are all connected. Let's dive a little deeper into each one. So let's start with vinyl. There's a reason you see it everywhere. It's the most popular choice by a long shot. Why? Well, it's budget-friendly, it comes in a ton of colors and styles, and you basically don't have to do anything to maintain it. In fact, it makes up almost a third of the entire market. The catch? It's not quite as tough as some of the other options, so it can get damaged in really extreme weather. All right, next up is fiber cement. Now, if you're playing the long game and durability is your #1 priority, this stuff is an absolute beast. It's super resistant to just about everything. Fire, pests, rot, you name it. Some of it can last up to 50 years. Now, the initial cost is higher, for sure, but when you think about how long it lasts, it's a pretty amazing investment. And then there's wood. You just can't beat that classic natural look, right? It's got a timeless appeal that's absolutely beautiful. But, and it's a big but, it is a commitment. You have to stay on top of it with regular painting or staining to protect it from insects and rot. So while it looks incredible, you've got to factor in those higher long-term maintenance costs. Okay, so you've picked your material. Now for the fun part. What's the payoff? What do you actually get for this investment? And let me tell you, the benefits are real, and they go way beyond just a fresh new look for your house. First up, let's talk money, because new siding isn't just you spending money. It's an actual investment in your property. The cost versus value report from Remodeling Magazine consistently shows that siding replacement is one of the best exterior projects for boosting your home's value. You can actually expect to get a significant chunk of that money back when you eventually sell. That's huge. And check this out. This is another massive benefit. Energy savings. When you get new siding, especially with proper insulation behind it, it's like wrapping your house in a cozy blanket. The U.S. Department of Energy says this can slash your heating and cooling costs by as much as 15%. Think about what that adds up to over a year. So let's recap the benefits. On top of the financial perks we just talked about, you get a home that looks absolutely fantastic. Talk about curb appeal. It's going to be way better protected from that wild New Jersey weather. And if you go with something like vinyl or fiber cement, you'll spend a lot less time and money on upkeep. It's really a win-win-win. All right, so you're probably seeing all the benefits and thinking, okay, I'm in. So what happens next? Let's demystify the actual process of getting it done. And just as important, how to find the right person for the job without pulling your hair out. You know, a real pro follows a very clear set of steps. They don't just show up and start nailing up new panels. First, they've got to take off all the old siding. Then, and this is key, they inspect what's underneath for any hidden rot or damage. Only after they've prepped the surface properly will they start installing the new stuff. It's a process. And speaking of prep work, let's talk about the moisture barrier for a second. This is something you absolutely cannot skip.
It's a protective wrap that goes on your house before the siding. Think of it as a raincoat for your walls. It keeps water out and prevents some really nasty problems like rot from happening down the road. Seriously, it's a non-negotiable. Okay, finding a contractor you can trust really just comes down to doing your homework. Here's your checklist. First, make sure they are licensed and insured in New Jersey. That's a deal breaker. Then read recent reviews. Ask for local references you can actually call. And please, get a detailed written estimate so there are no surprises later. Finally, make sure you understand the warranties on both the materials and their work. And at last, we've arrived at the big question, the one everyone wants to know, the bottom line. What is a siding replacement project actually going to cost a homeowner in New Jersey?
So the typical range is pretty wide, as you can see. It can be anywhere from around $8,000 up to $20,000 or even more. And that huge range is exactly why it is so important to get multiple detailed estimates that are specific to your house.
So what makes the price go up or down? Well, a few key things. The size of your home is obviously a big one, and so is the type of material you choose. But other things matter too, like the complexity of the job. If you have multiple stories or lots of tricky architectural details. And of course, if they find any repairs that need to be done underneath, that'll also affect the final price. So there you have it. We've gone through the why, the what, and the how of replacing your siding. From spotting those first warning signs all the way to understanding the final bill. And that really just leaves you with one last thing to think about as we head into another season. Is your home's first line of defense actually ready for whatever comes next?